Hey, it's Clay at claytrader.com. This will be my top 10 stocks as we head into Monday, November 29th. This will be a technical analysis breakdown. So if you're somebody that uses charts within your trading, or maybe you're just interested in learning more about the tool of technical analysis and how it can be used to help make good decisions as a trader, this will be a video for you. Before I get to the stocks real quick, I do want to personally invite you to get signed up for this free live online class that I'm offering next week. So if you're liking what you see as I go through the video and you want to learn more about the tool and how to use it to build consistency, then definitely get signed up for the free class. If you're watching on YouTube, then there's a link down in the description box, or if you're watching at my site, there's an area right there on the webpage that you can click to get signed up. So like I said, if you're enjoying what you see, then definitely get signed up for the free class. A couple of quick clarification points here. First off, I will be using the 30-minute time frame, meaning each one of these candlesticks, for those of you that are new, represents 30 minutes worth of time. And then second, the market is still open for just a few more minutes, so you're not crazy, but as I go through the video, that candle there is still going to be moving around. That's because, like I said, the market is still open for a little bit, but it's close enough to be in the end of the day where I feel confident talking about the levels that I do will still pertain to Monday. So first off, SPY, the overall markets, unless you live under a rock, you know that it's been a very, very dramatic day with all the news and all that sort of stuff. So now there's definitely some big questions headed into next week about whether or not this big gap down has any sort of true, genuine downwards momentum behind it or not. And the first level here that I think a lot of people will be watching and are doing it is putting that trend line into play right there, because that's a very valid trend line. And the good thing about this is that that doesn't take a bunch of skill. So in other words, people around the world are going to be watching that and wondering, okay, the price the price is starting to trend upwards a little bit, but is this a dead cat bounce, or is there any sort of true power behind it? And while there are no guarantees, my point here is that it's very plausible to think that if the price does come down to that trend line and then break down below it, that could create a whole nother wave of bearish momentum to the downside. So that's going to be a level. And like I said, call it a self-fulfilling prophecy, call it whatever you want. But when enough people are watching the same level, wondering the same thing, that's exactly what can happen. And in my mind, there's going to be all sorts of people watching that trend line, and rightfully so. It's a very kind of level that stands out quite a bit now. On the flip side of things, as far as levels of resistance, main overarching level of resistance, if there is going to be any sort of bigger bounce to the upside, in my mind, is right up at $465. So keep an eye on that from the resistance side of things. But in my opinion, the big dynamic here that most people are watching and care about is going to be that trend line and whether or not it can hold strong or not next week. So we'll see what happens with it. Next one here, BFRI, and I should have mentioned this previously, but it's not normal. But today, today being Friday when I'm doing this video, the market closed at 1. So if you're watching this and wait, what are you talking about? The market's almost closed. It's usually 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern when it closes. That's true, but today it closed at 1 p.m. Eastern time. But anyways, next one, like I said, BFRI, very, very nice move to this one back on Wednesday, and talked about that being kind of a resistance area right there. But today got the gap above it, and then consolidated, and then had itself a very nice afternoon, although the last 30 minutes are not looking the greatest. But overall, a good solid day, and updates certainly need to be made. So I'm going to go ahead and delete those lines out as they've served their purpose for now. But some of the newest levels to watch, first area here for more of the pullback perspective. So if you like to play pullbacks, then right there around $7.50 becomes a very interesting level. If you're thinking, no, I want to be a little bit more high maintenance in my pullback levels, I want it to come down even further, then another interesting level right down there around $6.50. So maybe $6.60 to be more specific, but just generally speaking, $7.50, $6.50, some very interesting pullback areas. As far as breakout levels are concerned, very straightforward now. So it goes to the whole self-fulfilling prophecy type, dynamic. You can see that 2 candles in a row, quite literally the price got rejected at $9.49, and then during that 30-minute session, $9.49. So let's just call it $9.50 is going to be that key breakout area where if the price can turn around, get up there and break through it. Once again, no guarantees, but is it plausible to think that a break of that area could produce another round of upside buying pressure? Absolutely. So $9.50 definitely going to be that key level to watch next week. Next one, AMC, and all things considered, a solid day, and I say that just because the market's obviously gapped down a big amount, so most stocks did also gap down here. But in this situation, it started to recover back upwards. So like I said, yeah, it wasn't like a great day, but given that the price at one point was all the way down there, it did have a nice recovery. So certainly some key dynamics here to watch. And just like, I'm going to get rid of that line, but just like SPY, this now has a trend line here that I think a lot of people are going to be watching, and rightfully so. So keep an eye on that trend line, and as long as the price stays above that area, let me change it to green to represent more of a bullish dynamic, but as long as the price stays above that level, then that does symbolize that the price is still making progress. So, technically speaking, the price could go all the way up here, then come all the way down there, then shoot all the way up there, and then come all the way down there. But you get the idea. As long as the price stays above that level, That implies the price is putting in those higher lows, which is important. So continue to watch that from the support side of things. And then resistance-wise, monitor that purple line there, which on my chart denotes the very well-known famous 50 period moving average. As of right now, currently valid at, we'll just call it $39.50. So watch that. But like SPY, I think the main dynamic here is all about getting that trend line in place and now watching and monitoring whether or not the price can stay above that area. So we'll see how it all plays out next week. Next one here, Tesla, TSLA, and nothing new to update as far as levels that I talked about in a previous video, but the one dynamic here that just really illustrates the power of charts is there's a general rule that when levels of support are broken and closed below. So I talked about that green line being an area of support, but you can see the price gap down below it. So at that point, you'd expect it to act as resistance. So let me change that from green to red to represent resistance. But I mean, check it out. The power of charts, not once, but twice. The price tried to bounce, but that former area of support is now acting as resistance, and in both situations ultimately pushed the price back down. So while I'm not saying that the price can never ever get back up above this 1108-ish area, it makes sense why the price has been rejected at that area. So in the very near term, if there are any sort of attempted turnarounds back to the upside, 1108 going to be that first key resistance, and then the next key level would be this downtrending trend line right here. But as of right now, this is somewhat irrelevant because, well, let's just first see if the price could even get above that area right there. But I'll leave that general area up there nonetheless because it is Tesla, so you never know what will happen. I mean, there could be a big turnaround. But as of right now, things are looking very weak last 30 minutes here. So very much so, I think 1065 could be coming into play next week, which is a very, very well-known area of support. So from more so kind of the short-sided perspective, that there's some self-fulfilling prophecy, and you're going to have all sorts of shorts watching that level thinking, if the price comes down there and can break down through it, that could create a lot of, another round of downside selling pressure. Again, not guaranteed to happen, but a plausible thought to have. But these are going to be the main levels to watch here headed into next week. Next one, ISPC, and a very, very tricky chart to talk about because it really just depends on what your game plan was going in. What do I mean by that? Well, if you're a day trader, flipper, scalper, whatever you want to call yourself, and you bought right there, or you bought right there, and your plan was to buy and sell quickly in like 5-10 minutes, well, then from that angle, the chart looks terrible because the last 30 minutes here has been absolutely brutal. However, if you care about more so the bigger picture point of view, then you look at these lows right here and you compare them to those lows and compare them to those lows and those ones down there. And if you envision each one of those as stair steps, well, what do you have? Well, from the big picture, you still very clearly have stair steps making progress in the upwards direction. So is this a bad or good looking chart? That is all on you and how, your game plan going in. Again, from the micro standpoint, if you're some sort of day trader and depending on where you bought, I don't know, maybe the chart looks like a train wreck for you right now. But from the grand scheme of things, yeah, nasty pullback, but still plenty of opportunity to build at the higher base, which from, kind of the support standpoint, let's see, what is that? 1550, very interesting level where if the price can stay above there, I think that makes this chart look perfectly fine from the big picture. Because even if the price comes down there, again, and we go back to the whole stair step thing, well, where would the price be? Well, it'd be right there. And then you look at those sets of lows, and we'll just do that. And then you look at this set of lows down here. And again, stair-step-wise, everything is still perfectly fine. So 1550, in my mind, as long as the price is above there, then the overall trend is still perfectly fine. If the price drops below it, then okay, now we can start to open up more of a discussion of, okay, maybe something's broken with the chart. But as of right now, just a nasty pullback. But because something has a nasty pullback doesn't mean that it's end of the line. But we'll see if the price, gets down to 1550. How does the price behave at that point? Next one, AHPI, and very interesting dynamic in this because overall from an bigger picture, a lot of upwards momentum, right? The price was down here not that long ago, and now the price is up here. And then, of course, today you throw in the fact that it occurred with a whole lot more volume. But the interesting thing is at least the price is pulled back. So if you're someone that's like, I don't know, am I chasing the price? Am I getting suckered into FOMO, fear of missing out? Well, you have none of those worries now because the price has pulled back. I mean, the people that got suckered into FOMO are the people that were buying there and right there. So now that just because it's pulled back doesn't mean that it's going to for sure recover. But I'm just trying to get across the idea that, yeah, if that is always a worry in the back of your mind, I don't know, am I buying the top? Am I chasing the price? Well, no, it has officially pulled back. And you can see right here is actually forming a nice little doji candle spinning top, whatever you want to call it, which again, within the grand scheme of things is a nice upwards move. You have a nice little risk rewards, situation here starting to take place. So from a support area, first key level, that's pretty interesting right there at 775. And then another pullback area right down there, the lows from today at 735. So kind of, if anything, call this a little support zone right here, which is an interesting dynamic. But if this thing does start to turn itself back around, then a pretty well-defined breakout point right up there around the $9.50 mark. But overall, like I said, nice movement here. Got the surge, got the pullback now, and not just a question of if you believe this pullback is going to, yield itself back around, well, then it's worth, definitely putting on the watch list. Next one, OCGN, and very interesting situation here just based on the fact that it started off so bad with a big gap down, but then after that, that opening 30 minutes shot straight upwards. Sure, it's pulled back here, but it's still up higher than where it was. So it's really just a situation of can the price at least maintain those lows right there? Because if it can, well, then back to the whole stair step analogy. If you picture where that low is right there and envision those as stair steps, well, you would still have stair steps progressing in the upwards direction. And that's what you want to see. If something starts to bounce, well, then you want to see it continue to bounce because those bounces can eventually turn into reversals. But you can't have a reversal if the price all of a sudden starts putting in new lows. So in this situation, the level I think is very revealing, right down there around $6.30. So if the price can stay above there, that just symbolizes the fact that, all right, the price is still maybe not necessarily exploding upwards, but at least it's still working on building a higher base. As far as levels of resistance are concerned, the key level here, let me get that out of the way, that stands out to me is this resistance area right there. So give or take right around the $7 mark to watch. But yeah, interesting movement here. Big gap down. Very strong opening 30 minutes. And can it build a higher base? Next week, I think, will be very revealing. Next one here, NRXP, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time with it because, the premise remains the same as if you like to play pullbacks and like to know that you're not chasing the price, you're not suffering from FOMO. Again, the people that suffered from FOMO, they're the people that bought up there. But with the pullback here within this very interesting movement, then there could be some opportunities here. So as far as levels of support are concerned, first interesting level right there at 650, or if you want to see if the price can come down to that pink line there, the 200 period moving average, that makes a whole lot of sense too, which is essentially valued right down there around the $6 mark. So if you like to play the pullbacks, those are a couple of interesting areas right there. If you want some sort of confirmation that the thing's starting to turn around, then an interesting level of resistance from that angle right there at $7.25. So if the price can, break back up through $7.25, preferably with higher volume. I'm not going to say that $9 is automatically guaranteed, but there's definitely quite a bit of wiggle room up here because there just aren't any other areas of resistance. So there could certainly be some potential for the thing to regain some momentum. So worth keeping an eye on. Next one, CCL, cruise line. So yes, clearly got absolutely destroyed this morning with the news. But what makes this interesting is, okay, it is starting to bounce back upwards. Now, a bunch of shorts are watching this, though, because they're looking at this and saying, well, you have a bear flag pattern, and they're not wrong at all. Now, remember, just because something is a bearish pattern does not mean for sure guaranteed the price is going to go down, or just like if there's a bullish pattern, doesn't mean that it's guaranteed to go upwards, if only trading were that easy. But is it valid to think that this thing could ultimately roll back over? Yeah, it is absolutely. But to be fair, you also have to acknowledge the fact that the bulls are showing some signs of strength. So is this strength going to turn into something more where it keeps grinding higher and higher? That's very possible also. So it's at least keep an eye on that dynamic there with, I think, a problem point could very well be up there around $18.25. That doesn't mean that it's going to fail to break through there, but that could present a challenge. And then, of course, as far as levels of support are concerned, if the price violates down through that $17.35 mark, that's essentially meaning that this entire bounce has been wiped away, which would be a signal that the bulls have failed. So, certainly a very, very interesting situation given the broader context of things. And I'm going to keep this very, very quick because it's essentially a mirror image, but instead of being in the cruise line space, now we're looking at AAL, which is in the airline space. So yeah, with all the COVID stuff, it's really just a matter of, okay, there's no doubt about it. Some strength is definitely shown up. Nobody can argue that. Is this truly strong? This is still forming a bear flag, but if this is truly strong and this thing continues to grind back upwards, well, then this thing, so in other words, if today's news is just way overblown and, people are just freaking out for no apparent reason, maybe there is an apparent reason, that all remains to be seen. But if if today is just a freak out day that's not justified, well, then there you go. You can see the market already starting to recover. So that's what makes this very interesting. But from both situations, especially given the sectors that they're in. So from a support side of things, interesting level to watch right there is at 1725 again. As long as it stays above 1725, that would still allow the stair steps to be going in the upwards direction. But then if this thing does continue to grind upwards in the very near term, looks to be a potential problem point right there around 1785. And then after 1785, up around 1825. But let's just see if the price can first break above there. But all in all, like I said, given the circumstances of today, some very unique setups out there. So that wraps up the top 10. Again, if you like what you saw here and you want to take your understanding of the tool of technical analysis to another level so you can start to build consistency, then definitely get signed up for the class next week. Like I said, it'll be Thursday, December 2nd at 7 p.m. Eastern. So get signed up for it. As far as these top 10 videos are concerned, if you enjoy this format, if you would like for me to continue to put in the time and effort to make these, then please help me out with a little bit of basic feedback by hitting that like button and leaving a comment below. Even if it's just tell me something you traded today. Say hi. Give me a smiley face emoji, but hitting the like button, leaving a simple comment down below go a long way in communicating to me that you enjoy the videos. And as long as I know people are enjoying, then I will continue to make them. So again, get signed up for the free class if you're interested in learning more about technical analysis and how to use it. Hopefully everybody had a great Thanksgiving, and I wish you all a great weekend too.